Oh, well, I'll record the second half. It's a privilege of being here. Anybody got anything they'd like to ask me at this stage? I am going to talk about the unit now, but what I wanted to do was just set a conceptual agenda, if you like. Put the stuff on the table that I think we will be talking about. And I presume some of you will bring stuff to the table as well. I certainly hope so. Anything? Is colonialism a big factor in all these world issues? Good question. And what should we do there? So yes, Madison, do you want to expand on that a little bit? Is that something that you're asking with a sense that it is? So you're allowed to be shy as well. It's okay, but please feel free to contribute. What I find interesting is that COVID made people reflect on what humanity is, hence why people empathize more with the Black Lives Matter movement, quite probably, yeah. Catherine's asking about tutorials. We'll talk about that in a minute. Meeting in person for tomorrow's tute. Most of us will be. Again, we'll come to discuss that. Will we discuss how all these events are intertwined? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that we will keep those things in mind. But as I say, we also do have to tease them out as well in order to be able to talk about the particular issue that we're looking at, the efflorescence that we're looking at. Phoebe, I believe colonialism is a factor in all of this, and some agreement around that. And colonialism is certainly going to be one of the factors, one of the historical realities, the ongoing historical realities, I believe, that we will be discussing through this unit. Okay, I shall move on and just go back to share screen for a few minutes. Can I just make the point, folks, that I will not be running the workshop in this manner again. I think I've tried to emphasize that. So I won't be running in this manner again. I will be inviting you to come into this space. We'll have some ideas that we'll lead things through, and I'm going to give you the opportunities to discuss in small groups and hopefully open up this space for some larger discussions as well. But you'll get used to this perhaps as we move along. Why are you back there? All right. I do love the question on that t-shirt. Welcome to a flipped classroom. Welcome to a flipped class. What that basically means, folks, I actually stopped giving face-to-face lectures about 7 or 8 years ago. One of the reasons I stopped, one of them, was right about week 3. And in fact, even earlier, in some instances, we got about a third of the class coming along to the lectures. Now, I know for a third of you, that makes a difference, and there's a great love of lectures as well. I love giving lectures, really do, in lots of ways. But I figured at another point, it wasn't just about how the students had flipped the classroom about 20 years ago, in fact. It was actually more to do with the pedagogical reasons, the things about teaching and learning that I know and have come to realize. I wanted to actually get much more engaged with students in the face-to-face classes, in tutorials, in workshops that I run, particularly at the upper levels. And I was trying to work out how to do that with first year. And I'm hoping that through this particular format, we might be able to develop some productive workshops as well. But what we're doing is having the unit content online. We will have you will be steered towards your tutorials, steered towards workshops, getting yourself ready for these experiences to engage with your colleagues and your tutor around the kinds of questions that we're raising through this. So the real flip, I believe, is from teaching to learning. I think that if you think about me standing right in front of you and delivering as I'm doing now, it's quite a different experience to inviting you to engage with the material, to share your ideas, and to work things out in that way. Peer learning is, I think, a really vital part of what we're doing, and I'll talk more about that next week. There's the official definition of flipped learning, which is already on the LMS site in the welcome for this week. A pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space, and the resulting group space is transformed into dynamic interactive learning environment. The educator guides students as they apply concepts, engage creatively in the subject matter. That's the goal. That's the goal. And the way I see my role is as a kind of curator of the ideas, a curator of the knowledge, presenting that to you, inviting the engagement into that, and then inviting the engagement largely with each other in and through the tutorial, because it's in articulating the ideas, getting them out there. I lived in Papua New Guinea for 2.5 years, and we use an expression in Tok Pigeon that's "Autim ting ting," get your thinking out. Autim ting ting, and it's always been, I've always loved that expression, and I think that's what a tutorial is about. Autim ting ting. Now, some of you are quieter about that than others. Hopefully, the more introverted people in the classes can still get that sense of the thinking is, well, perhaps it's inner thinking, the inner thinking, but hopefully you'll get the chance to share it, because we will be working small groups and certainly aiming to create as safe a space as we can for the sharing of the various ideas that we are bringing to the table, and the formation of the ideas as well around this. Now, done a bit of research, I've done a bit of writing in this area, and here's some of the interviews that I didn't do, that colleagues did on my behalf about this. And what you'll see running through these 3 particular quotes is, yeah, it's more work in a way. And the reason why it's more work, I think, is because we lay it out and lay it out in a stepwise manner. I don't think it's any more work. It's two readings. That's fairly standard. There's video lectures and that sort of thing. It used to be 2 hours of lectures and 1 hour of tutorial, but now we've got this material online. But as people are saying here, they do find themselves engaging in it more. They do find it productive. And at the middle quote in particular, there's a better sense of individual responsibility, like you have to take time. Well, you don't have to, you can choose not to do any of the work and sort of take it for what it is at face value. But it definitely puts some weight on your shoulders to do the reading, watch the lectures, and I feel you get so much more out of class and so much out of the discussion if you do those things. I mean, I think we know that. I mean, that's not rocket science, is it? I think that what this does is structure the situation more successfully for you. And as you may hear me say a bit later, or you might get this kind of theory around this, really in lots of ways, I see my role sociologically as structuring student agency. And we'll talk more about the issues around that before too long. Here's the unit architecture and rhythms. So here we are here, introductory symposium 1 or workshop 1, symposium, it's meant to be workshop. Tutorial 1 will happen tomorrow in answering the question that was asked. Yes, we are opening the tutorials tomorrow. I want to get things started. I want to get you meeting. I want you to get you getting to know each other in the spaces. We'll start to raise some questions. We'll start the unit off. We'll get it moving. And the unit content for week 2 is module 1. That's already online, and that will become the landing page on Wednesday following the first set of tutorials. All of tomorrow's tutorials are face-to-face, and on Thursday we've got the online tutorials. We are obliged to offer both, and so that's what we're doing. And for some of you, that means you're having to fit in and around those obligations if tutorials that you wanted to get into are full or whatever. Apologies for that, but them's the breaks in some ways. Large systems will always have trouble accommodating everybody perfectly, as much as we'd like to. So workshop, then we go to the next workshop, this time next week, and next week's will be more interactive. Second tutorial, unit content, symposium, tutorial, content in the forms of a module. So module, workshop, tutorial, module, workshop, tutorial, and so on down the line. That is pretty much the rhythm of this particular semester. So the unit content available through Blackboard, video lectures, guest lectures, readings, films. We will use a number of films in this unit as a way of conveying information, which I think is actually, sorry? Was that somebody asking something there? No? Yeah? Okay. Films, web pages, etc. The workshop will be live streamed. Reviews previous tutorial, anticipates coming tutorial, processes some unit content of the week. So the content's all there. I will not be doing new content in either the workshop or the tutorial. We'll process that stuff along the way. It's going to be a mix of information from the coordinator and student processing of content, mainly in small groups. Peer learning, which I'll talk more about next week. Tutorials is the space to process unit content, to present research findings, share writings, thoughts, ideas, just checking time. Participation, and it's the participation grading for that is at 25%. That will include some online quizzes as part of that. That's some creative accounting that we have to do at the university. But the quizzes are really one of the ways in which we communicate the definitive knowledge of the unit, if you like, and inviting you to learn some of those things, learn some of the ideas, and the associations with them. Looking for engagement in class. There will be a weekly hand-in coming, the prompts and invitations to engage, which gets the perhaps unfortunate shorthand of worksheet. But please understand them as being offered in that spirit, prompts and invitations to engage. And we will ask you to hand those in just as a way of getting that sense of engagement in the unit and we won't be assessing the writing. If you would like feedback on the ideas that you're expressing in there, please make an appointment with your tutor to do that. So in lots of ways, you had those words before about it encourages you to take responsibility for your own learning. I really want to encourage you to seek the feedback from your tutor when you can, about the ideas and those sort of things. Regular quizzes and your writing or whatever else it may be. How you're going. Regular quizzes, they're going to be online, and there's going to be 4 in the semester. They will be delivered online. You will do them through the LMS, and they'll usually open on a Wednesday and will close on Friday. So you've got time to do them, and they will comprise of 15 questions, I believe. I haven't got to them yet, but it'll be 10 to 15 questions that will be posed for you. The assessment for the unit, we're assessing participation as explained. There's a research essay that's going to be due the 5th of October at 5 p.m, Monday. That's the week after the study break. I don't believe a study break is a break from study. It's a chance to do some of that catch up. And as I guess you'll know, if you've been here for a little while, or if you're new to the game, you'll come to realize pretty quickly that that's when, especially in the arts, I think a lot of assignments get due. I've been trying to work out how you could do it much differently to that. And I'm not convinced that we could, because there's a certain kind of body of knowledge that's needed before we can move to that. The final exam happening in exam week will have 1 essay, 25 multiple choice questions. And that essay will be a translation exercise. I haven't completely finalized it, but we'll be asking you to think about how you would communicate sociologically, anthropologically about some of the key events of our time. Maybe just one of them will do, but some of the key issues of our time: racism, sexism, gender equality, climate change, etc. How you would communicate that probably to somebody a little bit younger than you, but how would you translate sociological ideas, anthropological ideas, or how do they help contribute to an understanding of that? That's where we'll be focused in that final part, and there'll be 25 multiple choice questions, which really build up your coming out of your experience in doing the multiple choice through the semester. The unit focus: global change, local responses. Perhaps these days change feels a bit soft. Global overwhelm is how it might feel at the moment in a few different ways. How do people respond at local levels? How do we deal with the many things that are whirling around? Because globalization is not just about crisis. It's also about the everyday experience of life in a variety of ways. From an anthropological perspective, especially, probably more so than sociology, globalization is best understood through the prism of the local. It may well be the case that sociologists see it a little bit the opposite, that the local events and happenings are best understood through the prism of the global. Again, that's a really strong blanket statement. People will be seeing things differently and line themselves in different ways. The global articulates with the local. I think that's what really is a much more significant point. That's certainly where I would be encouraging you to send your thinking. People's lives are neither wholly local nor wholly global. What is that noise in the background? They're neither wholly local nor wholly global. They're glocal is one coinage that you'll come across along the way. Glocalization, that intersection, that interweaving between the local and the global. The unit content: defining globalization, globalization, same different, social change, trade, homogenization, cultural imperialism in the words of some, the globalization of art, of music, the flow of people, the forms of migration, Australian migration, etc. Then comes a research essay, and then comes the thinking about key issues, which I just had a go before outlining, that will get assessed, or you will reach their kind of culmination point through an exam essay that you'll write on that topic. So let's just take that pause for a moment and just take in these questions and how they speak to you. Globalization, with an S or with a Z? What is it? What's the purpose of the term? And that's the much more interesting question than actually trying to define it. When you start to look at definitions, start to look at how people are defining it, and what are they intending to do in defining it in that way? If they want globalization to be seen as trade, why? What's the purpose of that? Why do they choose to ignore other aspects of the movement of ideas or the movement of people? Why just that particular focus? And they can be using it for very kind of functional ways, positive ways. Trade, it's opening up trade, it makes the world a better place for everybody. Or they may be using it in terms of what it is about elites getting their own way in the world, that kind of focus there. But what's the purpose of the term? How is it being used and mobilized? And then start to think about how you use it. How are you using the term? What's your understanding of it? How do others use it? And our other challenge with something like this is, does somebody need to mute a microphone there? Just wondering, there's this bit of noise in the background, huh? What are the experts saying? We're going to be encountering all of that. That's all really part of where we're going to be focused. Need to think about the ways of being global. Well, here's some of the ways I could think of just the top of my head: through birthright, family background, through tourism, through travel, through volunteering in different parts of the world. Perhaps gaming does it for you, to connect you to other parts of the world. Influencing. I'm really struck at the moment. Primary schools are full of kids who want to be, who are actually expressing the ambition to become YouTube influencers. It's fascinating that they can actually see a career in it, because it's a lot of what they're seeing, I guess. Education, study abroad exchange, reading, through donation, through the ways in which we donate to the world, online, social media, clothing, entertainment, trading, football teams, all sorts of other ways in which we can be global. And here's a question that I think is well worth contemplating. Can you be purely simple, local, or national? Now, I guess given what I've just been talking about, you'd kind of guess what my answer is straight away to it. But if we just step back and think about it, are there ways in which one can be that? And if you can, what does that mean? And if you can't, what does that mean as well? Again, these are all kind of questions that we'll keep picking up. One of the things I'm going to ask you to contemplate tomorrow is the global you. So just reflecting back on those kind of questions that have just been asked in the previous slide. Creating the global you, there's a book of that name. So if you were to start to think about yourself as a global being, what does that mean? In what ways can you start to identify it? And as I said, some of the characteristics identified before may be a part of that. But just taking that moment to contemplate that, the various ways in which you are global. And we want to analyze the definitions, the portraits of globalization. That's another part of what we want to do tomorrow, and just continue that kind of disciplined approach to the ways in which the ways in which people are using the term globalization. So here's some of the leads that we'll be giving you for starting to unpack the use of the term. Are they using it in positive, negative, neutral ways? Are they expressing it as something new, as something old, as something that's unclear? They're not sure, or it's unclear how they're seeing it historically. Is it an economic materialist perspective? Are they talking about it mainly in terms of money? Or are they thinking about it in cultural, social terms or political terms? Or is it a mixture of that? Or are there, other things going on? Are there other elements that they're picking up on? It may well be something like technological focus on globalization, which of course is really interesting in the contemporary world. Do they see it as being a homogenizing force, or perhaps a heterogenizing force? Is it producing difference, perhaps? Again, are they looking at it in mixed ways, or is it that unclear? Is that not an aspect of what's being considered here? Then there's the other notable features that you may well want to hone in on as part of your analysis of this particular approach. But there's some of the questions that we're certainly going to be dealing with tomorrow. Duncan Maskell, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Melbourne, recently made this point in a sort of State of the Nation or State of the University speech. Not unreasonably, we can expect the next few years to be a time where people, particularly young people, will want to go deeper, explore social and natural reality more fully. We should remember that, as well as economic challenges, there is a crisis of trust going on in the world. Loss of trust in institutions, nations, political parties, perhaps loss of trust in facts themselves, or an understanding of what truth is. If you're one of those who wants to go deeper, I certainly hope that this is one of the units that you can take at this university that will allow you to do that, give you the space to do that, and allow you to explore your ideas, connecting them to the ideas of those around you and to those of the experts who've done a lot of thinking about this, about some of the issues that we're going to have well and truly on the table. I want to close what I'm saying here with an acknowledgement of country. To remember that in the last 40 minutes or so, I've been sitting on the land formerly owned by the Whadjuk Noongar people, which is still considered part of them, that they still consider part of their heritage. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge the elders of the peoples and the people with whom they work and serve. And I'll come out of that. See that I've got a minute to go. My God, I can't believe I got that timing right. I'm sure if I was face to face, I'd still be at about slide 12. So it can change the experience that way. What have we got? Muting mics. What's the next workshop? Yep, Tuesday, 10 a.m. I certainly hope I can sort out the technical problems from there to there. Has anybody got anything they'd like to ask me? Well, we need to have studied all the material for this. No. The condition of having a tune-in first week is I don't expect any pre-work for that. But I've prompted the questions. I think you can anticipate that you might get asked to introduce yourselves to the group in terms of, not to the group, maybe not to the whole group, but to start thinking about the global you. So it certainly will allow you to think along those lines. And I've also given you a heads up as the sort of thing we're going to do. You will get some definitions to work on tomorrow to have a think about and to do some of the unpacking that I just talked about there. That's the main thing you can expect out of tomorrow's tutorials. We're not expecting you to be full bottle on anything then. Just next week we'll expect that, right? The PowerPoint will be released. I'll turn it into a PDF now, and I will put that into the LMS. Probably also send it via a message as well. Any lectures for this week? Ask a couple of people. No, there are not. The lectures, the actual unit content is in LMS. The unit content, there'll be video lectures, there'll be films, there'll be readings, there'll be moments to pause and think about things. But I will not be giving face-to-face lectures, and I will not be delivering anything like I've just delivered. Again, he says, hopefully, unless I feel that there's a real need to fill in gaps. But if I did, it would be put into the LMS anyway. This space here from now on will be a chance to engage, usually in small groups. In fact, I can't see it. Well, we'll see how we go. Maybe we'll loosen up as time goes on, but it is a large group. I do realize that for that. So that it's, again, further processing of ideas. In some ways, perhaps speaking back to some of the material you've just dealt with, and perhaps also sometimes anticipating the tutorials that are still to come. Okay. There is no textbook for this unit. There is a film that we do have a DVD of, but it's not available. We cannot stream it. So there is a film that if you want to see it from the convenience of your own home, you might rent it for a few dollars or something like that. But there's no textbook. The world is the film is the world before her. About week 4 or 5, I think, that we'll have a look at that. So yeah, no books. Anything to bring for tomorrow? an open mind, an open heart, and it's always useful. It's always useful to have your electronica with you as well, I guess. But I don't think you'll need to go online tomorrow in the tutorial. All right, I think no hand in for tomorrow. I'm just looking if there's anything else I need to address. Yeah. So I can't see any more there. If some of you are able to, we're going into campus tomorrow. No, of course, Sophia, there's no, no, the tutorials tomorrow, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Tomorrow's tutorials are face-to-face. All right, tomorrow's tutorials face-to-face. What kind of films, Michael West asking? Mainly documentary films. There'll be one about fair trade. There's one about the globalization of metal music. There's one about Indian beauty pageants, and certain reactions around that. I'm just trying to think of any others. They're the ones that comes most immediately to mind. There are a couple of others. If the tutorials are online, are they done through Zoom? Yes, they're the Thursday tutorials with Mitch Lowe. I will be taking tomorrow's tutorials. But I tell you, I haven't taken tutorials in a number of years with first year. I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. It'll be fun, I think. And fun and learning are intertwined as well, to use obviously a favorite metaphor of mine for today, at least. Okay. As I say, let's pause everything there, and thank you for coming along. It's great to see so many faces. I'm looking forward to it all being a bit more visceral tomorrow. And if you've got questions, I presume you know how to contact me. Use email if you need to. Bring them along to this session as well. And as I say, I'm just going to leave this open. I probably will get into the habit of leaving this space open and exiting. I'll put it into the hands of somebody who might want it. Just so if you want to have a chat with people or anything like that, we can do that. I'm certainly going to be encouraging people in tutorials to be doing that as well. That's one of the bits of feedback I got from last semester. I know last semester is different to this one, but yeah. So I want to just do a little bit of experimenting with breakout rooms, and so if you don't want to be part of that, get out now. But if you don't mind, because I haven't actually done this before. I've got 57 there. I'm going to create 5 rooms. I'm going to create 5 rooms. You're going to go in there. Just introduce yourselves to each other, please, and maybe you can have a discussion about what that was like for you. I don't need to hear it. In we go. Because so many are leaving, I feel like I'm at an auction, only reverse auction. 4 to 5 participants per room. Here we go. I'm creating them. You're in a room. Go and join your friends.